And welcome back to Stories from the River. This is your host, Charlie Maloof, and I'm back in the studio with my business partner, our president and COO, Manny Rodriguez. Manny, welcome to the pod.
Thank you, Charlie. It's good to be back. It's good to be on the pod again with you. And I must say, really, really nice shirt.
Blue looks good on you.
It looks good on you.
And so, hey, we just wrapped up the series on the way we play the game, the story of Broad River Retail, and monthly budgets explained. You know, we've had quite a few summer series, and we got a brand new mini series. Let's roll into it.
Welcome to Stories from the River, a show in which we go behind the scenes at Broad River Retail.
Okay, so Manny, this two-part series is about the Lighthouse Fund. What is the Lighthouse Fund?
Yeah, it's a great question. So what is the Lighthouse Fund? Well, it's this project. It's a project that the team has been working on for over a year. And really the roots of it goes back further and beyond, really thinking about how do we show up? How do we show up for others? And for others here being our memory makers specifically. And so we've long desired to set up something like this, an employee crisis fund that employees can apply to, employees can, have a process that is a bit more formalized than what it has been. But ultimately, the Lighthouse Fund is something really, really good. It's something really, really good in times that might not seem so good. And so as our team got together to study about other employee crisis assistance funds, and again, thankful to our partners at Movement Mortgage, at Riverstone Logistics, they've opened their doors, they helped us understand. But ultimately, the Lighthouse Fund is in place for our memory makers, for those times, those troubling times that they may go through, for them to know that they're not going through it alone, and they don't have to go through it alone. They have a fund here that they can access, and it'll be there to support them.
Yeah, I think you answered like the next 5 questions all in that one answer. That was great. The Lighthouse Fund is really a memory maker crisis assistance fund.
That's right.
A memory maker crisis assistance fund. And you might be wondering, well, haven't you guys always had that? We've never had a formalized approach to assisting our memory makers in going through a crisis. Our memory makers, have gone through crises in the past, and we've had a non-process approach. Well, we've had a precedent-based approach. Well, we'll do this, and it's kind of a one-off here, one-off there. So I think we've had a heart for doing something like this for a long time, but then kind of other things kind of started transpiring. For instance, we if you go through the journey of like just the past 10 years, in 2018, we completed our management buyout. And so we weren't going to put a fund in place then. We had taken on debt. We had to kind of retire those obligations, make sure the company continued to heal. Then we went through COVID. We had a memory maker assistance fund that we implemented in the second quarter of 2020 for our memory makers who got furloughed. And we pulled funds from our Founder Scholarship Fund. The Founder Scholarship Fund was something that Jonathan Ishii felt very passionately about when we completed the management buyout that we put in place. Really the genesis of that in the summer of 2018, but really got into place in 2019 for the 2019-2020 school year. But we borrowed from those funds since people weren't going to school, COVID, country was on lockdown, for our Memory Maker Assistance Fund with Jonathan's blessing. And Jonathan Jackson had contributed to that. And then Jonathan put in more for it for the Memory Maker Assistance Fund. He doesn't want credit for that, doesn't care about me mentioning that. But that's the truth of what happened in April of 2020. And that fund has worked really well. And if you kind of go through the history, we've also had many ways that memory makers show up and support other memory makers.
That's right.
And so what are some of those other programs that have been in place? And then we'll kind of get into the
Lighthouse Fund. You're exactly right. I mean, you can point to a lot of things where our memory makers show up. Mm-hmm. They're super generous. 2 specific examples that I would note here would be one we're in right now, and that's our Operation Magic School Bus. What we know is that back to school shopping is exciting, can also be stressful. It can be stressful because there's so much and it's gotten more expensive. And so our memory makers have gotten together. Our memory maker experience team has gotten together to really procure requests from memory makers that might just need a little extra help, support. And we then disseminate that across to all of the enterprise. And it's always great to see the packages that show up. And so that operation is all about making sure that the children of memory makers, that when they have their back to school, when they show up at the bus stop, when they get dropped off, that they have a full backpack full of supplies, ready to hit the ground running day one. So that would be one. The next one would be Operation 'Tis the Season, because we know that, again, that morning, every child deserves to open something. And I remember growing up, and mom and dad would always say, like, hey, you might not always, get what you want, but we're always going to work hard to get you what you need. And so I love the heart behind these two because it focuses on children, it focuses on our memory makers, and it shows the best. It shows the best because I don't know about you. I know you feel the same way because we've talked about it and I see you model it over and over again. But when you're able to give, it's a beautiful thing to do.
Those two programs that you just mentioned, Operation Magic School Bus and Operation 'Tis the Season, I know Kelly, when we curate the list of the needs, and she loves to go shopping and get the boxes ordered and the TRS 80 calculators, whatever.
Those are nice. Those are nice.
Yeah, those are needed, and it's fun. But our memory makers show up in a big way.
They sure do.
Our memory makers show up to help the community in a lot of different efforts. Yep. We've talked about that. We've featured those two programs, 'Tis the Season and Magic School Bus, on this podcast, and we will link to those episodes here in the show notes. And then we have our Founder Scholarship Fund, which we just did a
summer series.
I think it was maybe our third summer series we've had on this podcast featured. But we've not had a formalized way of curating crisis needs. I like the way Tim Sales says it. You could be one phone call away from a crisis, wherever you are in the org too, by the way, and you need help in an unexpected manner. And so we haven't had a way to kind of curate those needs systemically and for them to have an application to go to and say, hey, confidentially, I'm in a world of hurt right now. And a way to kind of give to that.
That's right.
And so why is the timing right now for the Lighthouse Fund? I think from where the company is, it's one of these things that like when you launch it, you're like, I wish we'd done that 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But we're doing that today and we want to share this out because others probably are kind of pondering and thinking about the same thing. And so just as we learn from others, we want to share and teach out our learnings, and we'll continue to learn from others. Someone who just did it, we're now sharing best practices. And so you mentioned Movement Mortgage, and we got to be friends with Stephen Phelan, the Chief Pastoral Officer at Movement Mortgage, and now working a lot with faith-driven entrepreneurs. And they really put in a program, through their LoveWorks program. And, they have like kind of three pillars of that, but one of them was a crisis assistance program for their employees or team members. And so we kind of said, well, what are the needs? How much do you give? How do you seed it? How does it work? How do you kind of set the guidelines? Who assesses the needs? And then we also met with Riverstone Logistics and their team. So our team really we did a go in, see approach. So do you want to kind of talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, about the go and see. I mean, that's core to when I think about Ashley and I think about the Wannickisms, they have a heart to go look and see. I mean, you have to kind of go and uncover and ask questions because there's blueprints out there. And there's folks like Stephen who are super generous with their time and Riverstone to really understand how they did it and understand maybe things that they would have done differently. And so they're gracious to share that with us. And we'd be gracious to share that with you. If you're contemplating an employee crisis assistance fund, we'd love to talk to you about it because it is needed. It is needed. And I think for us, now was the right time. Now was the right time. We've always had a heart for it. I think back to hearing about this thing at church years ago called the Jeremiah Fund, when the beauty of it is, hey, you're contributing to folks that might be sitting right next to you, that you just don't know what folks are going through. And so to give to someone who might need it during that time and help them make that a period in time that might be difficult, make it a little bit less difficult. Like what a gift, what a gift. And so, it's so exciting to see the excitement, but also the gratefulness that comes from a program like this.
Yeah. So you and I have talked about it for years. We've had a heart for like the inspiration behind the Jeremiah Fund, the kind of knowing, being aware of what Movement Mortgage was doing through the LoveWorks program, having then that first person experience and interaction with Stephen Phelan and Nikki Noel, who really opened their doors to us at Movement to kind of walk us through their whole playbook. By the way, you can go to their website and you can order their pamphlets and their playbooks, and they'll overnight them to you, which was amazing.
Really, really nice.
Yeah. And so, we're wearing this shirt called Be a Light. And so, I love what we do out in the community when we say furnishing life's best memories for others. But in order to have a best memory, you really can't be in crisis. And I love this phrase, charity begins at home. Mm-hmm. And so I know we want to take care of our people first, but we also love processes. And so having a process to really have a systematized approach to kind of do this initiative was really, really important. And so, we believe that purpose begins with identity. So we started kind of wordsmithing kind of names. And, what does Be a Light and how did this kind of terminology, the lighthouse, come about?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, I think when I think about being a light, I think about what that says about how we show up, the hands and feet. And being a light, from a scripture standpoint, it means showing a better way, showing the way. And so how do you be a light? How do you show up with positivity, with intentionality? We think that when we looked at a lighthouse, and I mentioned this earlier, I grew up in the Northeast and I would see lighthouses up and down the coast. And I was always kind of interested, like, what's the purpose? Like what purpose other than be sure on these foggy mornings, like it helps kind of, but the cool visual of a lighthouse and understanding that first of all, it has to be set on firm foundation. It has to be able to withstand really powerful winds and storms and anything that kind of comes its way. It's the constant there that projects out, that shines out, that breaks through the clouds, the fog, the darkness, to show the light, to be the light for those that need it, that are traveling, that need to look for the directional. And so the lighthouse was the perfect illustration of what we hope this fund is and what it means to the memory makers that need it and when they need it.
Well, we love our connections to water and rivers at Broad River Retail. So a lot of our names, we had the tributary program and things of that nature. And this whole vision for where we're going with these initiatives is to be a light to everyone we serve. And so to be a light. And scripturally, there's, we really leaned on Matthew 5:14 through 16 from the Sermon on the Mount. From the Sermon on the Mount. There was we just came through a series at church called Summer on the Mount. Through the Sermon on the Mount series, where Jesus really talked about being a light to others. But there's so many scriptural verses that you could kind of link to or tether to about being a light. And we also, as an organization, try to kind of be that proverbial city on a hill.
That's right.
Set apart something different. So when you think about, the purpose of a lighthouse, and again, this is it's not just kind of Northeast, but also the North Carolina, the lighthouses, but ships going through rough seas or going through rough waters, and this whole vision about being a light, and then the scriptural tie-in about trying to walk and with your walk, the way you walk, to be a light to others. Well, when people are going through rough seas, rough waters, or crises, why not be a lighthouse for them? So the Lighthouse Fund, a place where they can draw hope from, or can pull them, navigate them back to shore safely. So I thought the name connected with the vision. and the team agreed.
That's right.
And said, yeah, that works. So the Lighthouse Fund, there's a lot of different ways you can kind of go with it, but being kind of having that connection to the Carolinas, to the coast, to water, to going through rough seas, I think that kind of was a good anchoring to say the Lighthouse Fund. And then this was something that, as we're kind of always looking to kind of, you have your tithe to your church, you have other organizations that you give to or that you support. And again, under this mindset of charity begins at home, to be able to say, hey, I want to give to our people who are going through crisis in addition to other places of giving. And we kind of saw what, Casey Crawford and the team at Movement Mortgage did to seed the fund. So we were able to seed it but then invite, because we know our memory makers like to show up for each other with no expectations to invite our memory makers, if they wanted to come in, to also, join us in contributing to the fund. Not because they have to or that we expect them to. And quite frankly, I didn't think much of it. It's like, hey, if you want to, that's great. But I mean, what did you think of the response of our memory makers who said, yeah, we want to join you in this endeavor?
Yeah, it's always a good reminder of how amazing our memory makers are, because you see them show up for Operation 'Tis the Season and Operation Magic School Bus. You see them show up at Beds for Kids and their love for St. Jude and their community partners. And then we launched this Lighthouse Fund. To your point, we were so grateful to seed the fund and to give to our memory makers. But sure, we of course wanted to make it optional and invite them in if they want to. And the response from the go was incredible. And it's still getting some updates. It's pretty shocking. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I was, they set a goal for a number of memory makers to contribute, and it's probably around 10% of our population. I think we're already there. I mean, we got to like half of the number on the first day.
That's right.
Which was kind of amazing and totally unexpected. And, our memory makers give, and by the way, they give of their time, they give financially. And those, I feel like from my position as an owner, and I know you feel the same way, but speaking for myself, like this is what I'm supposed to do.
That's right.
To whom much is given, much is required. And you're supposed to look after your own.
That's right.
And to put in a process where they can confidentially go, and under our guardrails and our systems, we're not making the need decisions. We'll get into kind of who we partnered with and how that works, but they've completed an application. But I want to make sure that they know that the funds are there for if they have a need that fits within these parameters, and it's not a judgment, but a care and a compassion situation, that we can care for them that way, and the funds are there to kind of discreetly, confidentially take care of them. Maybe help with rent, help with an automobile situation, help with a child care, help with a unexpected medical expense. So that just takes the pressure off, because there's a lot of pressures when you're going through a crisis. The one that you probably don't need or that maybe we can help with is the financial part of the crisis. We can certainly help with like being flexible with work and time away or FMLA, et cetera. But to take the pressure off the financial piece is meaningful. Yeah. And so happy to be able to do that. And so do you want to talk about, I want to make sure I hit on a couple things, because I know it's a 2-part series, and we're going to have Emmeline, Heather, and Tim Sales come in and talk more about kind of the program and give a lot more answers. But let's talk about who we partnered with, why we partnered with them, and kind of just the mechanics of how it works.
Yeah. No, well, I think your key point there is on the process. And I'll touch on the partners that we have partnered with, experts really in this field. After talking to several folks and vetting, and again, Emmeline and the team did an amazing job with that. And also listening to the counsel of Riverstone and talking with Stephen over at Movement. So National Christian Foundation is a partner of ours. They really help with just kind of establishing the fund, help with making sure that we get good optics, that the team has what they need. But then they have partners. We have a partner of Helping Hands, who really is the fund administrator, and how they act. They add the dignity portion to the process, because prior to this, things still happened. But when they happened, it was usually one of us or both of us getting an email or our people team getting an email from a memory maker in need. That's really hard. That's really, I mean, you're in it. There's something going on, whether it's a home situation, whether it's a health situation, and you're writing that email, you're drafting that email to coworkers, colleagues about something really, really personal. And so we always looked at it as a privilege to be able to help and support how we could, to the best way of our ability and showing up. But now what this process does through Helping Hands, through the National Christian Foundation, is it really gives them dignity in the process. It is completely confidential. There is a systematic process of what they go through, the questions they ask, and how the funds are dispersed to help the memory maker in need. And so it does formalize it. And we saw that response. I mean, after the first couple of weeks, to see the funds already being distributed to memory makers who needed it was really, really amazing.
We'll put links to Helping Hands and National Christian Foundation. If others want to kind of reach out to them.
Yeah, great idea.
We vetted them out. We've worked with them in the past because Helping Hands helped us with the Memory Maker Assistance Fund.
They sure did.
And so the app, there's an online application.
Mm-hmm.
It's confidential. It's private. And it doesn't go to us.
Nope.
It goes to Helping Hands. Helping Hands will make that decision based off of parameters,
criteria.
Criteria, guidelines that we've provided. Do you want to touch on the broad brushstrokes on kind of the type of things that kind of get approved and the type of things that might not get approved?
Yeah, these are instances. So when you think about home situations, whether it's issues with a potential eviction or something that's happened with the rent, a medical situation, that is going on that was unexpected, that you're having a tough time with. All these are the types of opportunities where you go through the application process. Helping Hands looks at the criteria and they work with you directly. Whether it's a utility that is getting ready to get turned off because of multitude of reasons, all these things that are super, super vulnerable to talk about. The process in the application is confidential. They have the guidelines and they are able to assist quickly.
Yeah. So that application comes in. The majority of them are probably going to get approved because they're going to qualify. And we have stats on that. In the first week or two, we've already seen the number of applications that have come in and the money that's already gone out.
Already been dispersed.
And I think the approved applications was 80 or 90%. And they may go back and follow up and ask additional questions. So I don't know the exact percentage of the approval amounts. I don't remember it. I think I was told. You may recall.
Yeah, it's close to 90%. And really, to your point, sometimes it's just asking a bit more questions. So just getting a little bit more clarity on the situation, which, again, we are not the pros in. And so having someone like Helping Hands that knows the questions to ask, because that's what they do day in, day out for a multitude of companies. So sometimes it's just, hey, we need a little bit more information. Can you provide this? And then they move it on in the process.
And let's say funds get approved, does it go to the memory maker or to like the landlord?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so this just goes back to kind of how we studied what others have done and the recommendations, even from Helping Hands. And so those funds get dispersed directly to whether it's the utility company, to the landlord, but it gets so that bill can be satisfied.
Yeah, or the hospital.
Or the hospital.
Yeah, because you've got these bills coming in and need them taken care of. Okay, so partners we've worked with, Helping Hands, NCF we've worked with, the confidential application that we've worked with, and one cool story is that someone who submitted an application, and we don't know who this is, doesn't matter, received the funds and then already signed up for payroll deduction to give back. How cool is that?
I was just going to say, how cool is that? I think that's really just a testament to generosity.
Yeah.
You said generosity begins here at home. And what we see is that for those who can give, they do give. And it's even those that, going through it, they're already thinking about, how do I repay it? How do I pay it forward to the next person that could use this? And so I love that story. We don't know who it is. We don't need to know who it is. But that kind of just reassures you that like, yeah, this is a good thing.
Yeah, that's really cool. And what movement really helped us with is kind of the average size monetary value.
That's right.
The percentage of your population that's probably going through crisis. Now, different companies are in different industries and have different average salaries of their workforce. So their percentages could vary, but the percentage of folks over a period of time who are going to apply, the amount of money to expect to be, doled out, I guess, so to speak. And so our commitment is to continue to keep this thing funded,
Absolutely.
Along with our memory makers, to make sure that our memory makers going through crisis can always depend on the Lighthouse Fund.
That's right. Well, I was just going to say, I mean, they helped really prepare us for what to expect. I mean, so that was so helpful. And yes, I mean, we're this podcast, I think about what we've highlighted, what you've highlighted on this podcast throughout the course of the year. Amazing content, amazing stories. I think we'll continue to do a lot of amazing things this year, but I think it's going to be really, really hard to top this one. This is something that we've had on our hearts for years. And to see the team, and again, credit to the team, Emmeline, Heather, Tim, Jocelyn, everyone that came together to help get this rolled out and communicated to all of our team, all of our memory makers. It's really special.
Yeah. And so to kind of put a bow on this episode, and I love the logo that we went through a few iterations.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah. And got a few different ideas. And, when you look up lighthouses, you kind of come across the most photographed lighthouse in the world. I don't even know if I've ever seen a lighthouse in person. Probably I had years ago, but I don't actively go out to lighthouses. And so you only get one time to make a first impression. So you and I had a chance to go up to New York City for the Acquired live podcast at Radio City Music Hall on July 15th. We had to miss the Counting Crows concert in Charlotte on that same night.
But that's
okay. You have to pick and choose. We had our Central Park run. And so then, we are in the Northeast. Your parents are in Rhode Island. So you said, hey, we can take this train from New York to Boston the next morning. I've never been to Boston. But we said, you know what? This lighthouse that kind of gave us inspiration is up in Maine. And then, I've always wanted to go to Acadia National Park. So I kind of worked out a family weekend getaway at Bar Harbor and flew Kelly and the boys up there. And so we did the weekend up there. But we also had this town hall launch on July 17th. And we said, wouldn't it be cool? What if we were literally at the Portland Headlight, the most photographed, arguably the most iconic lighthouse in the world, for the launch of our Lighthouse Fund? And so we kind of made it happen.
Sure did.
I got in Bar Harbor, I picked up a calendar for lighthouses in Maine during our trip. We'll see and so here for the month of June, that's that beautiful, we'll show pictures.
Portland Headlight. That's
the Portland Headlight picture right there from our visit. And we took that. We're probably showing pictures on the screen here of, if you're watching on video, of Manny and I at the Portland Headlight, which we did our launch on July 17th. Got a little magnet here also, a little Lighthouse Fund magnet. This reminds me of the Lighthouse Fund. I don't know. I thought that was kind of neat.
Well, just so for our local Maine listeners, what Charlie mentioned was Bar Harbor, not just want to make sure you got that right.
Yeah, my wife said I couldn't say that, but Bar Harbor.
Oh boy.
So we went to Acadia National Park, did some hiking. But you and I got to go to the Portland Headlight right outside of Portland, Maine, and Cape Elizabeth.
Cape
Elizabeth outside of downtown Portland, Maine, for the launch of the Lighthouse Fund. So that was really cool. And so more on the Lighthouse Fund and the launch event, the countdown that we had to kind of the launch event. Something good is coming, that Emmeline and the team kind of orchestrated. And so again, credit to Jocelyn and Heather and Emmeline and Tim Sales and Kim Harkness, and even Chrissy Whitley was on the team.
That's right.
When they were looking at Project Upstream and kind of doing some of the groundwork to get us to this point. I'm super proud of it, super excited for it. So much time and really heart and soul was put into this, really thoughtful. I love the Be a Light t-shirts. And so if you donate, if you give, you get a Be a Light t-shirt. And, we've even had friends and partners reach out and say, hey, I want to donate, I want to give, which is awesome. Our memory makers are showing up in a big way. So I'm proud of this initiative. Hopefully it will live on for many years. I wish that there wasn't a need for the Lighthouse Fund. But people are always going through something, and you're not to be judged when you're going through something. We all go through things at various times, and sometimes those things require financial support and financial help. And that's what this Lighthouse Fund is for. Whether you have a 10-person company or family, you're going to go through something. Someone's going to be going through something at some point. And certainly in an 800-person company, somebody's always going through something. We know that. And so this allows us to have a fair and balanced, systematized way of really supporting our people, our memory makers, in their moment of crisis, to know, to use your words, that they can come to solid, stable ground. We want to be that lighthouse shining through the fog, shining through the darkness that helps them navigate back home, to take away a little bit of their stress and pressure off of them. So that is this episode of Stories from the River and the Lighthouse Fund. Come back on Thursday and you'll get to see Emmeline, Heather, and Tim Sales talk more about the launch event, what went into it, their experiences from the Lighthouse Fund. And then the following week, we're going to have our 300th episode. Don't want to unveil that just yet, but tune in. We've got our 300th milestone episode here in season 4, 300 episodes. So thanks so much for joining us. Wherever you get your podcast content, whether you're on YouTube with the videos or Apple or Spotify, and Spotify has videos now too. So thanks so much for joining us. Hey, do us a favor, leave us a comment, mash that follow or subscribe or like button if you will, and let us know what else you'd like to see or hear from us here at Stories from the River. We love your feedback and your comments, and we try to bring you the freshest content available in the podcast verse from retail. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for listening to Stories from the River. To check out more episodes, visit storiesfromtheriver.com. To watch this episode, go to youtube.com/@storiesfromtheriver. Join us again next week, and remember to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast.